Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson responds to the results of that corruption survey.
A new poll shows 86% of Bahamians believe there's a lot of bribery involved in Bahamian elections.
According to the Minister of Social Services, the criticisms surrounding the Interception of Communication bill are necessary.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson is defending the Royal Bahamas Police Force in the wake of a Transparency International survey that indicated pollsters rated the force as having the highest bribery rate of the 6 public service providers in the country. Ferguson says while every agency has its bad apples, corruption will not be tolerated in any form on the force. Jasmine Brown reports.
The police commissioner was resolute in his stance, insisting no form of corruption will be tolerated within the force.
We have taken decisive and harsh disciplinary action against persons who have gone outside of the scope of the law. And there's guidelines on how to deal with persons, disciplinary guidelines how to deal with persons. And we deal with them in that manner.
The survey, which was conducted last October as part of the 2017 Transparency International Global Corruption Barometer on the Bahamas, found that 1 in 10 Bahamians who had come into contact with a public service officer in the past 12 months had paid a bribe. Of the 6 public services, those polled admitted to paying a bribe in order to get service. The police force had the highest bribery rate with 13%, followed by utility providers and departments that provide identity documents such as passports and driver's licenses with a rate of 11%. Ferguson said while the force cannot change the public's perception, it can clamp down on corruption within its ranks.
It is difficult to respond to perception. We deal with the facts.
He added that since becoming commissioner just a few short months ago, he has made clear his no-tolerance approach to wayward officers across the country.
I've had a meeting with all of the sergeants of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, all of the corporals, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, except some of those remote family islands. I'm in the process of doing the same with the constables, and we have candid talk.
Ferguson had this message for those who have a viable bribery complaint against an officer.
We're not saying that nothing do not happen among the police officers. We're not that naive to even think that. But all we're saying that if you have information, tangible, not something where you're trying to tarnish somebody's image. If you have information that is actionable, then I would encourage you to report it to the Complaints and Corruption Unit.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, that public domain survey conducted as part of the 2017 Transparency International Global Corruption Barometer for the Bahamas also revealed that 86% of those surveyed believe voters are bribed in some capacity during elections. With a breakdown, here's Kyle Joaquin.
There's always been the belief that there is some level of bribery involved in Bahamian elections, but now the results of this new public domain poll add some meat to the discussion.
To some degree, everybody thinks everybody's corrupt. And that for me is interesting because it means that we really have a lack of trust in our civil institutions.
Of the 1,000 random people surveyed, 86% believe voters are bribed in some way. Respondents were also asked how often do they believe voters are bribed in general elections. 41.1% believes always, 29.2% said sometimes, 16.1% often, and 4.3% never. Respondents were also asked, how often do you think candidates offer rich people and businesses favors once they take office in exchange for compensation in the country's elections? 34% said always, 29% sometimes, 19% said often, 4% said never, and 14% don't know. Public Domain CEO Mwale Raming says here's what he finds interesting.
Only 10% of people admitted to actually giving a bribe or receiving a bribe. So it's sort of the effect of, I don't do it, but everybody else does it. So it's a perception. It's not that we're saying 86% of people got bribed for the last election.
Also included in the list of questions, do you agree or disagree with this statement? Wealthy individuals often use their influence on government for their own interests, and there needs to be stricter rules to prevent this. 76% agreed, 14% disagreed, and 10% don't know. Respondents were also asked, how often do you believe votes are counted fairly in Bahamian elections? 32% said always, 15.7% often, 26.5% said sometimes, 10.3% said never, and 15.5% don't know.
A lack of trust in our civil institutions. And that lack of trust is costly, which means, and I don't want to get complex here, but even the people who paid bribes did not report it. And one of the reasons given that they didn't report it is they believe that the people who they would report it to are corrupt as well.
After the 2012 general election, when the PLP won by a landslide, there were allegations of Canadian fashion designer Peter Nygaard providing millions for that party's campaign. There were also allegations of his lifer-key neighbor, Louis Bacon, indirectly funding the Free National Movement to destabilize the former Christie administration. This renewed concerns over campaign finance reform. So respondents were also asked, do you agree or disagree that financial support by companies to political parties and candidates should be banned completely? 43% agreed, meanwhile 31.3% disagreed. 14.8% remained neutral, and 10.1% don't know.
I think that people believe that our election process are not as above board as we think they are, but we have no knowledge of that. So like we say, I think everybody else is doing it, but I'm not doing it.
The Prime Minister has promised that his government will amend the Public Disclosure Act to broaden the scope of application to include campaign finance reform and to make provisions for direct referral to an independent prosecutor. For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Members of the public sounding off on Public Domain's most recent poll. Jared Higgs went beyond the statistics and filed this report.
Some say they wouldn't dare.
I have never been bribed. No one have ever tried to bribe me, and I'm not looking for any bribes.
So. Would you let someone buy your vote?
No, not really, no.
No? I mean, what if they offer you $1,000? Someone just tell me they do it for $1,000.
No.
Others were ready to name their price.
How much is your vote worth?
Money-wise?
Yeah.
A little slow. Probably $1,000.
$1,000?
Yeah, probably that much.
The topic of vote buying in the country pushed to the forefront of the national conversation as a result of a recently released public domain poll.
Yeah, I'd probably take it.
You take it?
Yeah.
Why you take it?
Because I know PLP, FNM, TNA, all of them coming in with the same agenda.
Well, every election, I think that's go down, that one, I wouldn't say last election, so I don't know what's the difference between the elections, because every election, money comes out the box.
You know about it from both sides, or you only know about it from one side?
Both sides, even three sides, to be honest. I was behaving, and I just tell you I'd go, that's how I'd go. We're behaving to turn down no money. Good times or bad times, bring the money, but we still will vote you out.
On the other hand, Roxy, a mortician, insisted that allegations of vote buying were nothing more than rumors.
Man, all of them is gossip. Gossip. Bahamians, we love gossip. We like the punch. Anything that sounds good in the air, that's what we're going to settle for. That's gossip. Understand me? And if somebody go to the polls and accept financial gain and forget who they really are as a citizen of the country, they sell themselves out. They sell the country, or they sell themselves.
Bahamian people should learn to respect their government and what it stands for. And so that when the money comes, you don't take it based on for a vote.
Now, the issue of vote buying is not unique to the Bahamas, down in Barbados, where they're getting set to have an election in the next few weeks. The leaders of the three major parties have told potential voters to go out and get whatever money is being shared around. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Leader of the opposition, Philip Davis, is criticizing the Minnis administration of being no different than the prior government when it comes to travel habits. This as he claims those trips have brought no real results. Our Jillian Gray tells us more.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis owes members of the Royal Bahamas Defence Force an apology, according to opposition leader Philip Davis, who spoke out against the public dressing down comments Minnis gave Commodore Chalice Bathel on Monday as cameras captured the awkward moment that went viral on social media. Shortly after arriving at a Freedom of Information Act workshop at police headquarters, Minnis told Bathel that Defence Force officers must learn how to navigate and stop mashing up their boats.
Senator Bell mentioned his tasteless attack on the Marines. If you ask me, and the Prime Minister should apologize.
Davis, who addressed PLP supporters during the party's Southwest Regional Branch meeting last night, also hit out at the amount of travel miles Minnis racked up since becoming Prime Minister last May. Despite heavily criticizing the travel of former government ministers, Minnis has made several trips abroad, including Peru and London last week.
Our takeaway is that nothing new or substantive came out of any of the Prime Minister's overseas meetings. Nothing came out of it. It was just another big birthday party trip. All kind of friends and family was whining and dining at that big birthday party trip. They all left. They left here with no plan, and they came back with no fresh ideas or plans, other than calling Bahamians corrupt.
Davis said while the PLP understands that there should be international trips to promote the Bahamas, Dr. Minnis should have never criticized the Christie administration, as there is no real difference between the previous government and what is happening now.
We in this country, we want to know just how much it costs the taxpayers for the Gussie May team he took between to Lima, Peru, and then to London.
Davis also slammed as irresponsible the Prime Minister's comments in Peru regarding corruption in the Bahamas. Davis claims the $500 million Minnis claims the country loses annually makes no sense.
He demonstrated a serious lack of understanding of the dynamics of our economy and public finances. He does not understand the guarded systems already in place to avoid the conclusions he's come to. The lion's share of the government's budget is committed to non-discretionary expense items, such as salaries, benefits, other emoluments.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
In other news, the Minister of Social Services is defending the government's decision to table its version of the Interception of Communications bill, despite criticizing the legislation while in opposition. Giorgio Bain has that.
The Minister of Social Services says the government doesn't mind the noise in the market surrounding the Interception of Communication bill. She says as a former officer, she knows the benefits this bill will bring to law enforcement.
The arm of government responsible for preventing and detecting crime has to be equipped in order to combat these type of activities. And so the interception bill, communications interception bill, simply seeks to do that. I believe once it is in the hands of a responsible government, once we follow the law as it relates to the provisions set down, the parameters set down, the controls that have been implemented and recommended, we should be fine.
While in opposition, the Free National Movement called on the Christie administration to scrap the Interception of Communication bill, which the FNM branded a spy bill. In what PLP leader Philip Davis described as a flip-flop and a complete about-face, the FNM government has now introduced the Interception of Communications Bill 2017, with Minister of National Security Marvin Dames leading off debate on Wednesday. Davis called the new version of the bill regressive.
I think there are one or two concerns of the opposition, and I believe that the government is minded to, in committee stage, discuss those concerns, and we will do what is best for the Bahamian people in the circumstance. Criticism is always good because it allows us to evaluate what the public is saying.
The Interception of Communications bill provides for the interception of communication networks, including public telecommunication operators and internet providers. The bill also provides for the use of certain devices for listening to private conversations conversations. Rohl also responded to Davis's assertion that he cannot support a bill that allows politicians to listen in on communications of private citizens.
I am certain that there are circumstances within which you would want it to be in the hands of the Attorney General, who is independent. So we must respect that and recognize that, and we must also respect the integrity of the Attorney General's office. And I trust the sitting Attorney General, and I trust anyone who is in that office.
Some amendments are expected to be made to the bill, which will be sent to a committee stage when the House meets on May 9th. Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, big changes to the Bahamas Carnival Road Fever route. Revelers will no longer move along Blue Hill Road or Poinciana Avenue. Instead, Bahamas Band Owners Association President Dario Torelli explains the new route was chosen for the scenery.
We leave the stadium going north towards the COB, that boulevard that runs from National Insurance to University Drive, by Clancy being built by the intersection. Then we take a left on University Drive going to the six-legged roundabout. Then we go north on Sanders Beach, and now we have the backdrop.
This year, Carnival has new managers in Palantra Media as the government decided not to invest in the festival. Spokesman Sebastian says things will be different moving forward.
Year on year, it always had a late start, so it never really got the maximum international exposure that it should. But I can tell you, Carnival for 2019 is the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're not going to do it the way it was done before. The dates are going to be out well in advance. We're going to promote it well in advance, and we're going to seek to achieve the objective what Carnival was originally designed to do, which is to put heads in beds, promote our destination, and bring tourists to our shores.
Tickets for the Carnival concert series are available at Airbrush Junkies, Club One Fitness Center, and Sun Cash locations. Carnival kicks off next Friday, but Bastien says the focus is already on 2019.
So when we launch Bahamas Carnival to the world, somebody sitting in New York or Antigua is able to go to one place and get a package. And we're talking about doing package deals with Bahamas Air, the hotels, the Bahamas Association. In one click, they can have the entire experience.
Still to come on Our News, a look at child neglect cases. Stay with us.